All right, jumping in today, we're going to dive into another project that is leading the DeFi race, and that is Celo. We're going to do that deep. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Lisa.
Back at it again.
What do you think about all of this craziness that's happening in DeFi right now?
First of all, Celo leading the charge. I love the concept of DeFi for the people, what they're bringing to the party, so to speak. $100 million in funding, Paul, for DeFi for the people, the actual fund. And I think that speaks to their desire to create a more democratized system. I think that the smartphone adoption of crypto is a very wise move. You're looking at a goal and an aspiration of theirs to bring 1 billion people to DeFi. This is really exciting news.
Yeah, I think as you see projects like this one start to move, and there's a handful of them that have kind of gone in this direction. And the interesting thing of it is that with what they're trying to do, being mobile first, which I think is the killer app for the next, say, decade.
Agreed.
We're going to see a lot of movement in this in the wallet space. We're also going to see a lot of movement in this in NFTs and also obviously in DeFi, which is going to be the biggest one. All right, so one thing is Phone Focus, this big rollout, their incentive program, which interesting enough when you look at what's happened with several of the DeFi project plans, like if you look at Solana is not doing these kind of incentive programs, but they've rolled out pretty aggressively in some of their projects. And of course, Solana is being used by so many dApps and so many alternatives. And then you've got AVAX. Avalanche did this very same thing.
Sure.
They rolled out with 180 million. It's like, okay, who's going to roll out with the biggest, bankroll here to get these projects moving? But working collaboration with Ethereum native protocols, Aave, Curve, Sushi, pull together Ox and UMA, as well as Ethereum infrastructure providers, obviously with Rabbit Hole and Graph, which is where it's going to go. Talk to me a little bit about what these guys are all about.
We talked about how they're driving smartphone adoption, leveraging cryptocurrencies. And this is an extremely wise move because when you think about the underbanked, for example, when you think about the number of people in the world that are actually using their smartphones, you're talking about half of the world's population having a smartphone. So to recognize that and calibrate to what's happening, I think is an extremely wise move. And this notion of inviting developers to participate in the development of the ecosystem, again, creates this perpetual cycle of adoption. And the utility aspect is, of course, one of the main drivers of why I think this price is pumping.
I was looking at their dApps on their website, and this was just, and I shouldn't say dApps, they're wallets, but their number of dApps that they've got also in conjunction with these wallets really kind of surprised me, and it really kind of put the whole perspective in place of really what their big picture plan is. And as we see them move into potentially, and there's a lot of things happening, I know, in these intra-network type platforms. We've had the guys over at World Mobile Token on who've talked about this, and some other projects that have been talking about utilizing grids and mesh networks. I think the next move is going to be probably low Earth orbiting, where we see satellites, maybe something like Starlink or others, that could start playing a big role in some of these types of projects, especially like at Celo.
I mean, they seem to be very well positioned, and the notion of like your cell phone number being the public key you use, I mean, it's
for payment,
for payment,
so it's no crazy wallet address. You get someone's either mobile number or username, and that becomes your wallet address. That is the way, and I think that's where, if you think about Twitter and what Jack is doing, eventually I think all of that on those decentralized exchanges, and also the way that they're trying to create infrastructure wallets to tie it to user base, which right now that's probably one of the holdbacks of crypto transactions is the wallet transaction scenario. You've got a copy of this big crazy long address, drop it over here, then reverse the order to send here. It's a little complicated for most users.
And that's the thing about it. I think that part of the barrier to entry with crypto in general is that there's a level of sophistication required. And I think that if you can simplify the process, again, using something that we use on a daily basis, our phones, then that in and of itself is going to be a tremendous driver of adoption, but also the utility. I cannot underscore how critical that is, especially in the emerging, in emerging markets. And there was actually a pilot that they rolled out in Colombia. And that was sort of an indication that, okay, this is something that has mass adoption potential.
Yeah. Founders, these guys are, let's see here, MIT, Stanford, Google, Square, Circle, Visa, GoDaddy.
No big deal.
I mean, this is like the developers of the entire Silicon Valley, tech stack.
But we always talk about how critical it is that when you're conducting your fundamental analysis, look at the team.
Yeah.
Who's the team behind the tech?
Yeah, which they're a little cagey on some of their people. Of who
you notice how they didn't reveal the
are.
names, though.
Yeah, who those
they just talked about the companies.
And kind of interesting. Here's my question. Do you think this can continue its rise? It had that sharp ascension once they heard the $100 million mark, which was really kind of I think they kind of took that out of Avalanche's book as their playbook, and then kind of jumped. And I want to just jump to this story here, this one right here, showing top gainer, 24 hours, Celo, blockchain ecosystem. Obviously, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
But big movement here for this little guy, and kind of crazy in terms of where it might be going in the future. What are your thoughts on how you think this is going to play out? Is this one of those DeFi projects that gets a bump and starts to fade into blackness, or is this the beginning of many of the DeFi projects that are like a Solana? Look at Solana. I mean, the thing, gosh, it's double in a week.
I mean, look, I think that when you look at what the objective is, right, they're committed to bridging the gap between two technologies with harnessing the benefits of DeFi, as we mentioned, and supporting the creation of dApps and smart contracts. And they're optimized for mobile. I mean, to me, that's a recipe of tremendous growth opportunity.
Okay, so here, and I don't want to completely drink the Kool-Aid here.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So I'm going to give you some. The worry I have with a lot of these projects, and this is something that if you think about what is happening with Ethereum, Cardano, and Solana, if you look at all three of those projects, it's really boiling down to speed, TPS. You've got the flexibility of the platform in enabling and onboarding dApp developers, which is another one. And then one thing that came up in an interview we just did, which we have kind of some very interesting privy to some minds here.
You're always getting the scoop.
This was a great point that a CEO of a major company, and you're going to get a chance to see this video soon, he talked about this one thing, and that is the enterprise culture. So let's forget about just the fact that we have all this mobile and these great crypto projects happening, and that's great and fancified.
He said it.
You also have an entire ecosystem on Web 2.0 that's out there that needs to transition. So how do they make that whether it's an Amazon, whether it is a Etsy, or 100 million other companies that are trying to, including Major League Footballs. You look at sports where NFT is going, you look at entertainment, all that's coming from Web 2.0.
Right.
So who is going to have the platform that's going to enable that Web 2.0 development stack to basically integrate with Web 3.0? Whoever has that project, that one, for all you guys listening and viewing right now, that's the one you need to follow.
So wait, are there any contenders though?
There are.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention them, though.
Ah.
You're going to have to stay tuned here for more videos, because we have one of those projects coming up very soon.
Don't you like how I asked you that leading question?
Yes,
I teed it up very nicely.
It's a great way to
go ahead, talk about it in the comments.
Plug the show. Yeah. All right, so you guys know we're going to be also hopefully hitting into 100K. So make sure and continue to share the channel, because that's been one of the biggest benefits we've seen. Lots of growth over the past few months. And it's been really kind of moving along. I want to jump to Trade the Chain real quick on Celo. And this is where it gets a little weird for me.
Okay.
And this is something that I always recommend all of our viewers and listeners, as we do these things from time to time. It's these kind of concepts we do call market movers. Market movers are pretty straightforward. We pull together this data. We'll give you some charts. We pull together some research and some insider angles to kind of give you going in your right direction. But it's not investment advice. This is really just a direction to help you guys go out and get your research done. But back to Trade the Chain, when you look at their sentiment here, and this was on the 7-day for Celo, and right here, of course, here's the big bump, and you see this negative move, and then just literally out of nowhere, they drop that press release.
Right.
So this had no fundamentals climbing out of what was a declining sentiment.
Sounds to me like they may not be able to maintain that momentum.
All right, so all of this was basically not leading indicator, but a trailing indicator. And you had this massive sentiment, still very strong, but the price, of course, now is declining a little bit. So that
what do we say? We say sell on the news and buy on the rumor?
Exactly. I always want to say it, buy on rumor, sell on news.
I know.
But
I don't know why I say the inverse.
Because that's the first thing you got to do is buy on the rumor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's priority.
Then sell on the news. All right, so we pulled the same scenario right here, and there's just not enough data here on Celo to really give you guys a full amplification cone, but mainly because we need enough data hauled in to be able to look at a predictive analysis. But right now, what we have on sentiment is 60.98, which again was fairly high. Again, back to trade the chain on what they're doing. You can kind of see that big bubble here, but amplification 59.61 also holding on this one. This is one of those charts that is deceiving to me. And it's one that I'm a little concerned on people going into this project. Maybe you're going to buy this on the way down. Maybe you're going to look at this as it dips and come back in. The question is, will Celo move further? And that is going to be up to the project leads and whether or not they can kind of come out with some more, movement and activity.
One thing I will say is that globally there is nearly 2 billion people that are under or unbanked.
The market's massive.
The market is massive, and I think that when you're considering, especially long-term investments, like this is an opportunity for you to get in while the getting is good. And for all intents and purposes, based on the tech, based on the incentives to drive developers to join their ranks, build on top of the platform, there seems like there's a lot of bullish indicators. Only time will tell, but so far so good.
Yeah, listen, the program, any kind of project that goes in this direction, I'm always very interested in. We've actually been, we've had several requests to cover this project. Right now I feel like it's a little bit skewed and most likely a bit overpriced. Now, can you buy it on the dip, and is it going to be, kind of in the direction of where Solana has been moving, or maybe even where Avalanche?
Explosive.
Yeah, I just don't know that it's that level of DeFi yet. Now, does it have a long way to go and a big runway in front of it in terms of opportunity? Absolutely, 100%.
So I think we can all agree to put it on our watch list if nothing else.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic on Celo, for sure.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
Paul Barron has spoken.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Whatever. If you guys are listening to us over on the podcast, make sure and give us some more likes over there. The Spotify crew, thank you so much for all your subs and follows over there. It's been great having you guys on board. Some of you are coming across to YouTube because we have seen a pretty significant uptick.
Because they want to see what we're talking about. They want to see
these charts. Yeah, they got to get it all. Get the whole experience.
Speaking of which, Paul, if you're watching on YouTube, we want to make sure that you subscribe, remain a part of the community. Tell us in the comments what you're interested in, what you want us to cover. Are you bullish on Celo? Are you not? All of that good stuff. Drop your comments below and make sure that you keep sharing.
We're gonna get the limoncello out. I like that.
Limoncello.
That's, when you say the Celo, you got to do it with the T.
I know you said that, and I couldn't quite
Celo.
Celo.
So I hear.
All right. Well, I'll work on my pronunciation.
It's a Twitter thing, right? Well, listen, the Twitter guys are out in force right now on this show. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, if you're on Twitter, make sure you shout us out. If you're watching this episode, make sure that you post this episode, you tweet this episode, and you let everybody know that you're a fan.
If you guys want to reach us direct, you have an idea for a show, you want us to take a lead, or maybe reach out and get a CEO on for you, hit us up on Twitter at Paul Barron, or you can also send us an email, and that's just producer@revernetworks.com. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.